I think it would be interesting if it turned out that like they're not brainwashed in like some magical way, but like it's in terms of like ideology or something.
Like, yeah, Eric Myers, the Quantum Ranger, he he didn't like the he sort of like, I don't know. I guess he wasn't smart because like he didn't associate like just because you're rich you're not necessarily always evil, but
Hmm.
like he had this divide with the original Red Ranger because like
Hmm.
they both they both had different backgrounds, so he couldn't empathize with him being a rich guy since he came from a poor background.
Were they fighting each other or what?
They
Or was it
they
just them not
they,
getting along?
they just didn't get along.
Well, just not getting along is just like just like cultural differences, you know.
Well,
It's not
he didn't even
necessarily
want
like,
to work with him was the thing.
oh, yeah, yeah. I know like probably in the NBA a lot like people from different classes have trouble
I think that's the
talking
problem
with
with
each other.
Jeremy Lin. Like that's why a lot of people don't like him.
Yeah, cause like it's an example of like this elite person doing well in the NBA, but like he overshadows all the people who's struggled and came from like lower income backgrounds too, right?
Right.
And like as a result, like he's like this sensation, but like people have like more amazing stories than him, but like they don't become as famous and all that,
Right.
right?
It's like a everyday story in the NBA, and then it got
Yeah,
overshadowed by Jeremy Lin.
yeah,
It's a very weird media thing.
yeah, yeah. So, uh, violence in the media. So
Violence in
we're
media.
saying a lot of things about how there are all these examples of media that sort of add like this kind of multi-dimension to violence.
Right.
But like we haven't really talked about like whether or not like the single-dimensional violence, like what is that good or bad, or like do you have anything like? I think we should talk about that too.
Like you mean like just
Like the actual like all the like kind of like stuff we might think as schlocky kind of like monodimensional stories, single-dimensional stories where it's just good versus evil. Like, how about that? How do you feel about that?
I don't know. My first thought is like the Bible,
Hmm.
and that might be a little bit controversial, so I
Okay,
don't want to get
don't get
into it
into that.
too much. And there's even America versus other people,
Hmm.
and there's the opposite, like anti-America versus America.
Hmm. Well, like, just talk about like something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or something, like or Transformers, or like Star Wars, like just good versus evil, like just good, evil, black and white kind of picture that like rosy pictures that are simple for people to understand.
Yeah, I tend to think of it as very dangerous. Like ever since the '80s, I tend to think of it as a little bit war propagandish.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm.
we're the good guy, GI Joe, Transformers,
Yeah,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
yeah,
whatever.
and GI Joe itself was originally like this kind of like war propaganda product, right?
Right.
Like during World War. I believe it was during World War II. Like
I think they originally sold
it
the
was
toys during World War II.
it was like encouraging boys to like support like the idea of like a soldier, and like also like the idea of cowboys versus Indians and stuff like this idea of power where like you're the good
And
guy
you have the
that
better
guy.
technology or whatever.
Yeah.
Like even in the cartoon, like you had um, Cobra Commander's based in the Middle East, and
Yeah.
the Baroness was Eastern European.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I hear that like they use like first person shooter games in the military to like help condition their soldiers to like like the game codifies like people from the Middle East as like there's something just this target to shoot and get points or whatever. And like they actually use Call of Duty to like help indoctrinate this idea to like help train the soldiers to kill more easily and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I heard this from a friend of mine who was in the military.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And he referred to this book called On Killing.
Okay. Um, does he share the same view as you, or?
I think so, cause like he said he talks about the book in great depth, and he said that they actually give this book out to like recruits now to like get to like let them know what's going on, and like there's more awareness of these kinds of issues and stuff like that. So
Okay.
yeah,
So that's interesting. Like I didn't picture the military as someone who would make the enemy more human.
yeah, there there is like kind of like reform going on now. I hear
Oh really?
like gender reform. Like they have
Oh,
gender.
gender,
I
yeah.
hear there's the gender neutral bathrooms in the military now.
Oh, that's really awesome.
Yeah. So like those who might not identify with a gender can use the bathroom. So like they want to be more inclusive and they don't want to. Yeah. And that's like a sign of like the changing times now.
That is true American.
Yeah. But is the true America one in which that where there's a mono narrative about like violence and stuff is should be acceptable? I think we're actually moving past that now, aren't we? Like more
Yeah,
and more
it's
media now is
yeah,
like
it's very
doesn't
interesting.
take that dimension anymore, and
It's
it's
a little interesting. Like
yeah.
we, I don't know. You said they were humanizing the enemy a bit more, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
still feel like we humanize like the soldiers a bit by like
Mhm.
giving more freedoms to like women and other gender, sexual orientation things
Mhm.
and race and
Mhm.
all that stuff. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I don't know. But you said like at least that general or whatever was more inclusive, right? Like
Yeah.
more humanizing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I mean in terms of well, I mean like how about in terms of media though? Like
Oh, media.
how's the media doing contributing to this discussion about like this multidimensional aspect to like the enemies and violence and stuff like that? How do you feel about that? Is it progressing? Are we becoming more modern and like moving past like these kind of like monodimensional stories since like World War II propaganda on both sides? You know, like and not only did the Nazis do it, but also America did it with their own like military propaganda. I heard that Disney did like war propaganda films like Victory Through Air Power. I don't actually know anything about them, but like yeah,
Is this just Power Rangers now, or is this everything?
everything and Power Rangers.
I can't think of a Power Rangers example yet, but I'm thinking about Transformers and how.
So you're
Like,
saying Power Rangers isn't progressing to that level yet?
I'm saying that, well, as I said before, with the Juggling and the Power Rangers RPMs of
Mhm.
Power Rangers, like that was very interesting.
Mhm.
And I feel like Kamen Rider
Mhm.
always tries to make, almost as an exception. It's always
Mhm.
an exception because like you always want to have different types of stories and stuff.
At least for the entertainment value to create
Right.
variation. Yeah.
But yeah, um, I think Toei has done a good job. I'm not so sure about the Saban side.
Mm.
It's hard to tell because like it really doesn't. Uh, Getting into the quality of the post Disney Saban era like is very touchy and very health.
Very touchy, you said?
I don't know if it's touchy.
To you, maybe to you, I guess
Very
it
touchy
is.
to me. Yeah, it's like because it's not very good quality work in general, so it's hard to get into.
Yeah.
But
A lot of that has, I think, okay, to say something here,
yeah,
I think a lot of this has to do with like core demographics and age groups.
yeah.
I remember reading a book about Chinese children's literature,
Okay.
and they talked about like at different ages,
Yeah.
there's different kinds of stories that I don't know if like this is like the kind of stories that like children are able to comprehend or just like kind of stories that they're just targeting to make.
Okay.
But at different age groups, there's like different kinds of stories that are either like children are able to comprehend or like people try to make. So like early age groups are like very optimistic stories, happy stories, like 0 to 2 years old or something. And then 2 to 6 is like maybe like funny stories with animals that like have some sort of minor moral message that like a tortoise in the hare and stuff like that. And then 6 to 10 they get a little more mature. They have like more like stories involving violence, like Hans Christian Andersen kind of stories and stuff like that. And then like 12 to like 10 through like like early preteens and like teens is like much more like sophisticated stuff, like maybe like some religious contexts and stuff like that. So like yeah, I think for like Power Rangers with like Saban era and stuff,
Yeah.
they're targeting like this Nickelodeon generation of kids. So like preteens to like younger children and stuff like that
Right.
with their programming blocks and
What's your opinion about Noah Ringer being cast as Aang for The Last Airbender?
I don't know. I don't think he was a good actor.
Okay.
Um, but
Nope.
I didn't see the whole movie.
Okay.
But yeah, why?
Because, you know what Jaden's last name in Power Rangers Samurai is?
What?
Shiba. He's part of the Shiba clan.
Why? So why do you bring that up? Are you
Because,
saying like this whitewashing?
pretty much, like, it's very awkward whitewashing. Well, they don't give him an American name, yet they give him a Japanese name, but he doesn't have any Japanese ties. So, it's very awkward. And it seems, I don't know if it's a pro-American thing or something, but it just seems very weird.
There is definitely a strong Japanese-American relationship that's been formed in the 20th century. That as like this kind of political move for America to get a foothold in Asia through economic power and media and culture. I'll definitely say that.
Yeah.
Like America has been trying to like box in China with like their political allies in Japan, and like there's definitely like this kind of like free exchange between like the media between the two countries, and like this positive perception between the two countries for economic reasons and political reasons. So maybe that's part of that, or maybe I'm overanalyzing it, or
Yeah,
but, like there is definitely that aspect to like
I don't want to get
to that and Power Rangers in general.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into it, but I definitely wonder if toys, with some of their media at least, have been, cautious regarding the Japanese government and their attempts to seize land from the Chinese and whatever militaristic.
Okay, this is like
powers they have.
this is
What are you talking about? Mono.
This is tough talk. This is tough talk.
Very tough talk, yeah.
Of course, our opinions don't represent like end all be
Saban,
all. We're just
Toei.
and this is all off the top of our heads. We might be saying completely shit, like, but like, yeah, like, don't take us too seriously when we say like this kind of stuff, like.
Yeah.
And we don't have like degrees in like political science and like political relations.
We didn't go to Harvard.
Yeah, so yeah.
Obama wasn't my buddy. Fist bump.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah.
Violence in media.
So
The mono.
is it okay? Is it bad? Is monoculture violence in media bad? I think we've been implying that this whole time by saying like, oh, all this multi-dimensional stuff is good. All this more depth is good. All these stories are good. But like, I think that the implication there is that like this mono stuff is like bad and like possibly a relic of like old school nationalism and stuff like that. Now it's a more global society. We're more multicultural. Like they have like halal carts in Washington D.C. and stuff like that. Like, do you know what I mean by that? Like, like we're more accepting of other cultures, regardless of like.
I hope so, at least.
Hopefully we're moving towards that, and hopefully we're doing that in the media too.
Yeah.
I think like movie like even Avatar, even though I don't like the story, like even Avatar, like seeing the big box office of that like shows like this kind of like multicultural acceptance and like how they portray like the humans who are mostly whites, I guess. They're military gung ho or like as the bad guys, like, and like the tribal people as the good guys. I feel like even that's like this part of like this multicultural world culture narrative that's been progressing over the years.
I don't know. I still think a lot of people are a bit dumb, and I think I'm going to say something controversial and say that a lot of people would feel terrible if there's a Muslim character in Power Rangers, or if there's a character that read the Quran or something.
Yeah, I think
poor education in the U.S.
Yeah, I think Japanese are probably more acceptable in
it's
mainstream culture
Muslims
than
growing
like Muslim,
more
right?
in the U.S. and they're more liberal. Like,
yeah, I had a thought the other day that like right now like Jewish Americans are so ingrained that we could have a show like Seinfeld would be really big. Like
Yeah.
I feel like one day I'd like to see the day where like we'd have like Muslim version of Seinfeld in America hit it big. Like I feel like we're really far away from that. Like the mere fact that I think that like we're far away from that is like a weird idea to me. But like I hope we can reach that point where we could have something like that.
You know, you never know. They have the Shahs on Bravo.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
that reality show
Yeah.
with the family.
yeah.
They also have also-
Kumar's at number 42. Well, that's UK. And that's like South Asian. That's not even Middle East. Like
yeah. Also, Muslim. What do you call the religion? Muslim.
Islam.
Islam is the highest growing religion in the U.S. In the world now.
In the world, yes, but not in the U.S.
Maybe not, but
Fastest percentage growing year over year, you mean?
yeah, like
Hmm.
business-wise, like the corporations can't ignore it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you gotta make money off that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
We live in a capitalist world.
yeah. Yeah, now more and more people are moving to the U.S., so we have to embrace that.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not like we turn them down. We don't let them not go to the U.S.
hopefully.
Well, there's probably issues, but
Yeah, and yeah, there's probably all sorts of stuff that goes with that.
this is a comic book I read that was written in 2008 called Arab in America that has a lot of issues.
Hmm.
Hoping after the Obama administration it got better, but I can't say for a fact, but a lot of stuff went wrong during the Iraq War and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like and even like the media, like CNN, still like often shows images of like these kind of like really extreme Islamists on television. At least before, I don't know now, like where there'd be like somebody like yelling and screaming like crazy, but like there's not a lot there wasn't as much portrayal of like people in the Middle East as like human, like people just get along and like just like are able to go to a restaurant and have a nice chat and like just talk reasonably. Like hopefully we'll have more of that. I think Jon Stewart was on the comedy equivalent, news program equivalent of the Daily Show in Egypt
Right.
at some point. So yeah, I hope we have more of that kind of stuff going on.
I mean, the interesting thing about Power Rangers is that, like, Haim Saban actually does do stuff with the Israeli talks with the Palestinians. I don't know how they go.
Yeah.
And the other stuff is that he does hire people with, nationalities from Arab worlds. Like, I think, what's her name? The white alien ranger. I think she was from Syria, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the Phantom Ranger's first name is actually Ali.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, like that supports the idea of tolerance within Power Rangers. Like that's
Yeah.
sort of the idea with
Power
the original
Rangers
five.
Power Rangers was always a multicultural cast, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
And part of like the '90s optimistic kind of like world culture, like along with Captain Planet and all that.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about
We've been
that.
progressing towards that in children's media.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe we've had a bit of a regression with like more recent Power Rangers, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
Doesn't
maybe
think it
we're
was
kind of
that.
scared to do that kind of stuff now. It's like, and like, I'd like to see Star Trek with like a Muslim character on it. Or like
Bashir
something like
was
that.
actually Muslim.
Bashir? Really?
His name was Bashir.
Hmm.
I mean, he didn't celebrate it.
As
but
in, yeah.
They don't really.
They don't really portray
celebrate
religion
Not.
in
Yeah.
Star
it's-
Trek.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like this post-religious society in Star Trek.
Yeah, pretty much. Other than the what do you call them? The Bajorans.
Yeah. But like Star Trek at the time in the '60s was originally like hailed for like having a regular cast member that was a female black actress and
Yeah.
all that at the
And-
time. So I think
and
they
a
need
Japanese American.
and a Japanese American. I think they really gotta keep pushing it, and I'd like to see like more like the next show that's like that actually has that kind of like
Yeah, I felt like
story.
JJ
Casting.
didn't really push much.
Yeah, he seems to be like a regression along with like Michael Bay and stuff towards like more traditional like He's regressions of like this pre, post.
Yeah, I have two things to say about
Okay,
that. Actually.
I think we gotta finish soon though. Like I think we've been dragging out this ending soon. Though.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. J.J. Abrams, like I sort of felt the Klingons like were unupdated from like their previous
yeah.
ties, because like before they were like
That's kind of terrible, isn't it?
yeah, before they were like the enemies of the Federation. But later on you have like Michael Dorn, who was like this phenomenal actor, portraying one of the most memorable characters in Star Trek. I felt like they turned the Klingons into this mindless enemy in the Star Trek films that I don't know how they're gonna make enough for Michael Dorn-ish character.
In which ones?
In Next Generation.
J.J. Abrams ones?
In the J.J. Abrams ones.
Really? They did that?
Yeah.
Man.
They were just these like mindless.
I don't like. For that reason, I don't like J.J. Abrams' kind of sensibilities.
Right. And I felt like when I originally watched Transformers, I was young and I didn't know better. Like I was like, oh, these are the Marines like trying to save the world, help Shia LaBeouf save the world from the Decepticons, and they're cool because they're helping the Autobots and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was a bit more propagandish too.
Yeah. And I also don't like the game Brill Force.
What's that?
It's a game where you play as military commandos in like some third world country, which is jungly, which is probably implying Vietnam. Which has like, and Contras, which is like, I think is completely outdated and like it's like completely like over machismo. Like I hate it. Like
Contra?
Yeah. No.
Brill Force.
Brill Force is like a throwback to Contra. I think Contra was like something
you just want aliens in Contra, right?
You can't blame it for like being it's sort of coding like codifying like Vietnam and like stuff like that. I don't like
really?
it. Like it's like it's like this subtle throwback to like fighting in Vietnam in the Congo or something like that. Like I don't like it. But yeah, Bro Force I feel like is something that we shouldn't have in this day and age.
Okay.
Like I don't like it at all. Anyway, I just want to throw that in there. Okay. Yeah, I hope we move more towards multiculturalism and multidimensional awareness of like things in our violent media, and like portray violence as not this monodimensional like good versus evil story anymore. Like,
right.
That's what I say. And I think it's a bad, toxic effect on society to like just encourage violence as like I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy. This kind of like I'm superior to you, I'm okay, you're not okay kind of like dimension in the world. Like I feel like that's very like xenophobic and
I just find it as lazy storytelling.
And his lazy storytelling is it's not as interesting. It's old-fashioned. It's outdated. It's boring too.
Yeah.
And it's less realistic.
Yeah, like I mean you don't have to make everything realistic, but you need like make everything make sense.
Yeah, and sort of speak to this generation's kind of sensibilities.
Right.
Like the millennials are becoming more and more worldly and like understanding people of other cultures and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I gotta say. Okay.
So check out Toku Eastern Heroes out.
Alright. Yeah,
PRPHD Arthouse Converter here.
Alright, yeah, check them out.
Thanks.
I'm his brother. That's it.